In today's video, we're cutting Approach of the Second Sun and we're not even replacing it. We found a secret built-in way to beat the One Ring. Let's go check it out. Where did Approach of the Second Sun go? Well, in order to understand that, you have to know what the card was used for. So the idea was that you would use Burning Wish to go grab Approach of the Second Sun and then beat the One Ring or Veil of Summer. And that was a utility card that cost us a sideboard slot in the deck. Obviously, you don't want to use sideboard slots if you don't have to. So why would you want to cut this card? Because we found a built-in way already into our deck in order to beat the One Ring and Veil of Summer. And the idea is that eventually, like using Approach of the Second Sun, you'll put Song of Creation onto the battlefield. So when you have your Song of Creation on the battlefield, you would then cast a bunch of zeros like Chrome Mox, Lion's Eye Diamond, Lotus Petal, and Mox Opal to draw a whole bunch of cards. Eventually, you spend 16 plus mana on Burning Wish into Approach of the Second Sun twice. Okay. So if you have the Song of Creation loop going, and I call it a loop because you can draw your deck multiple times with Echo of Eons. So if you have that going, you could pretty much win with a ham sandwich. Let's be honest, Approach of the Second Sun was a ham sandwich. So if you're going to do that, you can actually just empty the Warrens, and then at some point destroy your own Song of Creation with Reverent Silence. You could also bounce it with a Chain of Vapor if it's a post-board game. You could bounce it with a Void Snare if you have a spare Burning Wish. Or you can go Dark Ritual, Beseech the Mirror, and then sacrifice the Song of Creation to the bargain cost, so then the bounce of the Song of Creation is even uncounterable. Then you can pass the turn and discard down to 7 cards. If you've cycled through your deck multiple times with Echo of Eons, you could set up multiple upkeep copies of Silence. So that means you pass the turn with, 60, 70 goblins in play, and then in their upkeep you can cast 3 to 4 copies of Silence, and then what are they going to do? Nothing. There's no instant speed wraths that see play in Legacy, so you untap and win the game. So that is the idea. You no longer need a Grape Shot for Veil of Summer. You no longer need an Approach of the Second Sun. With Silence in the deck, plus Empty the Warrens and Song of Creation, that is just good enough. So that's the idea here today. The other change in the main deck since my previous video that you can find in the card above is that we're not playing the 2 main deck in Tomb anymore. Instead, we're playing a 13th land, which is something I really wanted. I felt like I was mana screwed a lot in that last video. Because without Brainstorm, I think you want the additional land for a little bit of smoothing. And then we're playing 8 protection spells instead of 7. So no Entombs. Instead, we're playing the 8th protection spell and an extra land. So small main deck changes, plus the big change, in my opinion, of not playing Approach of the Second Sun on the sideboard anymore. What do you think of this change? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hopefully I get to show it off today. And why don't we find out if we do? I'll see you in the first round. Don't go anywhere. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can also show your support by becoming a member of this channel. You get sweet perks such as badges, emotes, early access to videos, exclusive members-only content, and access to our members Discord section. As you increase the tiers, there are other rewards such as shop discounts, sideboard guides, and even free donation decks. Click the join button down below to find out more. We also have other ways you can support us, like theepicstorm.com/shop or submitting a donation deck via theepicstorm.com/donation decks. That's enough for now. Let's play some Magic. Welcome to match number 1. We are on the draw, and before I forget, let's take a moment to thank Matthew Story for today's donation deck. They're a member of our Combo Cabal tier, and in that tier you get 1 hour of coaching every month, but you also get a free donation deck. Matthew has been loving the list that we've been working on, the Stormtrooper section, which you're seeing today. So we are playing this at Matthew's request. Matthew, thank you for supporting the channel. And we're on the draw here in the first round. I've opened up a protection spell plus tons of mana. We don't have any action spells. I'm still going to keep this because we're on the draw, and I have the Surveil off of Commercial District. So we'll try this out. Sometimes a lot of newer people will be like, this hand doesn't have an action spell, mulligan. That's not always the case. Like, I'd rather keep a hand with a lot of potential where you have, a couple looks in order to win, rather than just mulliganing into oblivion for no reason. That's my outlook, at least. And we have been working on this list in the Stormtrooper section. I'm pretty happy with where it's at. If I was to go to Eternal Weekend, I'd probably play this 75 if I'm being completely honest with you. A Volcanic Island and a Ponder. This is my first video in over a week. I had some dental surgery, wisdom teeth removal, and I decided to take the rest of the week off, and I recorded a pretty big queue before I had the surgery. Like, I had it in the beginning of September, and I think there's only one video I didn't record leading up to it for the entire month of September. So like September's booked already, and I'm recording videos now for like October, so I'm pretty far recorded out at this moment. We'll play the commercial district. So if you want to see that giant queue of videos, so you could keep this because like you're like, oh, I could silence they force and then I tendrils, but that's not lethal. So I think I'm going to actually get rid of the Tendrils of Agony here, and we'll pass the turn. But if you want to see those giant queue of videos that are already pre-recorded, you can become a member of the channel. It's $5, and you do get to see everything weeks in advance, so I would recommend it. You get to support the channel as well, so it's a win-win. They play a polluted Delta, and it looks like they're passing here. Echo of Eons. That was a wonderful draw. So we'll play out the Lotus Petal. And we'll start now with a silence. You might be saying, why not Lion's Eye Diamond into Mox Opal? Well, what if they force will your Lion's Eye Diamond randomly? Then you can't Echo of Aeons? I don't want that to happen. And by playing out the Lotus Petal, if they Spell Pierce me now, I could Dark Ritual and pay, which is something I would be interested in. And look at that, it's a Spell Pierce. So I will now Dark Ritual. And they're going to Force of Will, exiling Force of Will. They have 2 cards left. I will pass the turn. So this tells me that they're probably on Sneak and Show. I had the feeling when I saw Volcanic Island plus their avatar, but the Spell Pierce sort of confirms it for me. So they have 2 cards in hand. On the end step, they can use Polluted Delta to go grab the Thundering Falls and look for their missing combo piece. They have 2 cards, so like they'd have to hit like land, show and tell, and monster. So like they need, you know, things to go well for them here. And they did exile a Force of Will to Force of Will. So when I Echo of Aeons, they're down a Force of Will, which is good for us. They surveil away the land. So that means that they have a land in hand, and they're looking for a show and tell or a monster. And there's the land. Do you actually have show and tell plus creature? Sneak attack. Okay, so they have nothing. But if I fizzle on my Echo, we lose the game, which is a concern. Well, that's just a clean win, so we'll do that. Dark Ritual, Lion's Eye Diamond, Mox Opal, and we'll tap the Commercial District, hold control, and we'll cast Beseech the Mirror with Bargain, sacrificing the Mox Opal. We'll add 3 black mana, and now we'll go grab the Gaia's Will. That is not in my hand for once. How about that? So we'll grab that Gaia's Will, we'll cast it. Storm is now 5. And we can pop out the graveyard. People like it when I pop out the graveyard, but it's so unnatural to me. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's so weird. Like, I get it. It's also better for people that watch on mobile. Like, I understand all the benefits. It's just not something I would ever do if I was playing on my own. It allows you to see the cards real nice and big, and you can actually see what's in the graveyard. And I guess it emulates, like, a little bit of paper of, like, picking up your graveyard after you've cast your Gaia's Will and just like flinging spells around. But I don't know, this just isn't what I would ever do. And now I'm going to pop it back in, and we can finish resolving Tendrils of Agony. So we've taken game number 1 over Sneak and Show. Sideboarding. So a lot of these decks bring in like a Grafdigger's Cage. I think boarding in 1 Beseiju here is fine, and then maybe take out 1 Mox Opal. That's probably all I would do. Sneak and Show is a deck in the past that has played both the One Ring and Leyline of Sanctity. I don't know if our opponent's playing either of those cards. I genuinely do not know. Sneak and Show is also a deck that commonly, and I mean it is common, plays Veil of Summer. So this could be a match where we look to upkeep silence them with our Empty the Warrens. The whole thing I talked about in the deck tech, if you're someone that skips those, you really shouldn't, because you hurt my retention rates, and then the videos don't do as well, and then I get punished, all that sort of stuff. But if you're interested in watching why we're not playing Approach of the Second Sun today, and why I'm talking about playing silence, go watch the deck tech. It will help you understand. Maybe you'll learn something, maybe you'll become a better deck builder, who knows. Game number 2, we've opened up an awkward hand here. I was pretty excited when I saw Fast Mana plus Silence and Echo, but then we don't have Lion's Eye Diamond. If this Tendrils of Agony was a Lion's Eye Diamond, this would be a snap keep. Instead, we're sending it back. Tendrils of Agony, my friend, stay out of my hand. I think we can do better. Like, this hand is just really slow. So, like, you'd bottom the Tendrils, and then you have double Chrome Mox that, like, what are you going to do? Imprint Burning Wish and then not have black mana to cast Beseech the Mirror? We'll go to 5. This hand's actually great. So we'll keep this, get rid of Burning Wish and Chrome Mox. So the idea with this hand is ideally your opponent plays Show and Tell and puts in like a Troxa or Emrakul, and then you go, okay, I'll put in Song of Creation. And then you untap, you gamble, Lion's Eye Diamond, all those things, probably in the opposite order. And then you just, overpower an Atraxa or an Emrakul plus Force. The downside would be if they put in Sneak Attack and then just killed you. We'll play Bloodstained Mire and pass the turn. No end step play. Okay. Ancient Tomb Show and Tell. Let's see it. City of Traders. I mean, that's pretty close. A Show and Tell. Alright, so we do get to put in our Song of Creation here. Alright, so we're hoping for not Omniscience. I mean, they only play like 2 of them. So, let's hope for the best here. Our opponent also, like, kind of slow. I took so many actions, and I'm still up on clock against them. Nice Emrakul. I think you're dead. DED. Dead. What's more powerful? A 4-mana enchantment from Ikoria that costs different colors? Or the biggest, baddest Eldrazi creature ever printed? Who will find out? There's no way to, get the answer to this question. We will Surveil with Commercial District, and the card is a gamble. I mean, a Trigger Song, I think we'll keep it. We'll begin by playing out a Lotus Petal, trigger the Song of Creation. Lion's Eye Diamond and a Plateau. We'll play Lion's Eye Diamond. No need to play out my lands quite yet. We drew Gemstone Mine and Dark Ritual. We'll play another Lion's Eye Diamond. Echo of Eons. This game is so over. Alright, let's play Gemstone Mine and Gemstone Mine. Cast Dark Ritual. Trigger the Song. We draw Beseech the Mirror and Sail into the West. Cast Gamble. Trigger the Song of Creation. We drew Silence. Silence on the stack. I'm sorry, Gamble on the stack. We'll cast the Silence. Trigger Song of Creation. They have 4 cards, so I'm guessing they kept a hand that was like turn 2 Show and Tell plus Protection. But apparently not, so they're just dead. And they've conceded the game. Nice. Love it. Alright, well that was a very easy match. Hopefully the remaining 4 matches are just as simple. I'll see you in the second match. Moxfield.com is the easiest way to build a Magic deck online. They support over 30 formats, including Legacy and many other Eternal formats. There are so many options to view decks the way that you want, from text view to individual cards, mana value, and even card price. There's also light mode and dark mode. My personal favorite feature is card tags. This way you can sort cards by function. Moxfield supports collection tracking, Scryfall search, decklist feedback, and so much more. Follow me on Moxfield.com so you can stay updated on all of my decks. For round number 2, we're on the draw. Our opponent has 1 result with Legacy Jeskai control. Here we've opened up sort of a clunker of a hand. I'm going to send this one back. Much better. We'll keep and bottom the Mox Opal. So with a hand like this, you're really just looking for more mana. Like a Lotus Petal would be great. But we'll see what we can make happen here. Meticulous Archive. Gets rid of a Nadu. So not Jeskai control. This is Cephalid Breakfast or the Nadu mid-range deck. Tendrils, are you the new guy as well? Stay out of my hand. I do not want you. Okay. There's a Hedge Maze. Gets rid of Nomads and Core. Here's another. So there's a chance we're dead because they got rid of both combo pieces with the Surveil. So I might need to silence them in their upkeep. Oh no. Oh no, not like this. Upkeep. Silence. It resolves. Okay. They play Urza Saga. Okay, so this is Cephalid Breakfast. The Urza Saga is a indicator. The Nadu decks don't play them. Like the dedicated Nadu decks at least. There's the Lotus Petal. Let's try Veil of Summer. Well, I mean, I could... Hold on. I could go Lotus Petal, Lion's Eye Diamond, Mox Opal, and then Silence if they force it. I could Veil of Summer. Then any mana allows me to Echo. Let's play Lotus Petal. I also get to avoid Daze this way. Because Cephalid Breakfast does play a couple copies of Daze. They also play a Prismatic Ending, so I'm really punished if I end up passing the turn. Another option is I could Veil of Summer, If they force it, I pass, and then upkeep silence them on tap, and then I have a deterministic Beseech win, which might be better. All right, let's try this. Veil of Summer, and that just resolves. So no deterministic Beseech win. I think we're doing an Echo of Eons with no mana floating. Burning Wish, yes. Grab the Echo of Eons, and we'll spin. So I do have a land drop available. Storm is 6, no mana floating. And that does not win the game. Alright, I have to hope I'm not dead. Underground Sea, pass the turn. And I'm going to mention this again. I did it in, I believe, my last video, but just in case, if you're someone less experienced with Legacy, I would like you to, have the knowledge. Lion's Eye Diamond cannot cast Beseech the Mirror. Fun fact, I had a bunch of people, and I mean like 6, 7 people comment, like, you announce the spell and then you discard your hand with Lion's Eye Diamond, and we're dead here. Not how that works at all. So that is not true. You cannot do that. Lion's Eye Diamond, you use as an instant. I believe that's the correct term. It says activate only as an instant. It's still a mana ability, but you can only use it as an instant. So it like, you can't Pithing Needle a Lion's Eye Diamond. That's why it's still a mana ability. But you can't announce a spell and then sacrifice the Lion's Eye Diamond. It just does not work. Our opponent reveals. And now they're fetching with Misty Rainforest for a Tundra. Another Nomad Zing Core. It's Tameo Inquisitive Student. And a Cavern of Souls. So in my upkeep, they're going to be able to draw 10 more cards using the Nadu. Like, the odds we win this are so low. There's the Tameo Inquisitive Student. Alright, now they attack. Once again, they can draw 10 more cards in my upkeep. So this is probably not going to end well for us. They discard the Dread Return and a Misty Rainforest. Bloodstained Mire. We will fetch. We'll grab Bayou. Let's play Lion's Eye Diamond. Why not? From Mox. Imprint the Gaia's Will. And now I can cast Beseech the Mirror, bargain away the Mox Opal. And they have Force of Will, obviously. They exile a Narcomoeba. And I will Veil of Summer here. Storm is 5. And now they'll be able to look at 10 cards here. We need them to miss on 10 cards. It's asking for a lot. There's a Brainstorm. Tropical Island. And now they play the Brainstorm, which will transform the Tameo Inquisitive Student. Veil of Summer back on the stack. I think maybe I'm wrong here. They just lost out on triggers by playing the Brainstorm there. They should have targeted their Tameo twice. Looking at the log, it doesn't say what they targeted. They might have targeted the Tameo twice. I'm not quite sure. Okay, Urza Saga enters. Veil of Summer back on the stack. Prismatic Ending, you can't cast that. Swords to Plowshares, I don't care about that one. They find another Brainstorm. I do care about that. Unfortunate. And now they're casting it. So I think you actually see less cards doing it this way. Like, in my opinion, if I was playing, I would just use the... I guess you get to shuffle here with the Misty. But I would probably just use the most things possible. Use the most triggers possible and then Brainstorm. So that way you end up seeing 13 cards instead of 10. They reveal a Shuko. Another Prismatic Ending. 24 cards left in their library. Statistically speaking, they should have found another Force of Will by now. Alright, the Nomads. Veil of Summer. Cavern of Souls. They're playing double Cavern. That's wild. You usually don't see 2 of them in the main deck of Cephalid Breakfast. Veil of Summer. Storm is 7. Oh my, it actually resolved? No way. They didn't see any Force of Wills? 3 Force of Wills in the bottom 23 cards of their deck. So now we have to figure out how to not lose to Swords to Plowshares. Alright, so Storm is 7. They're at 16. If I go bargain Beseech the Mirror, that would be Storm 8. Beseech the Mirror would be 9. Tendrils of Agony would be 10. Swords to Plowshares would gain them 3 life. So I believe that's lethal. Alright, let's just count through this one more time. We saw multiple Swords to Plowshares go to their hand, but they only have 1 white mana by the looks of it. And they're at 16. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't mess this up. So Beseech the Mirror would be Storm 8. Beseech the Mirror would be 9. Tendrils of Agony would be 10. Swords to Plowshares would gain them 3. and they would go up to 19 life. I mean, to me, this makes sense. So we'll grab the Beseech the Mirror, bargain away the Chrome Mox from 8, Beseech the Mirror. And you might be saying, why didn't I play out the Mox Opal earlier? Because for Storm Count? Well, my opponent ended up increasing my Storm Count a bunch, and I wasn't counting on that. So my plan was to get Song of Creation and then Mox Opal to trigger the song. Obviously, the game changed, so that way I didn't need to do that, but that was the initial game plan. We'll target you. I can't believe we were going to win this game. I would have guessed no way. It looks like they're going to let the individual copies resolve. No? Okay. They're going to concede. We just got away with murder. I cannot believe our opponent had a Nadu with 5 creatures in play that they could target to see 20 cards over the course of a turn cycle, and we somehow got away with it. I'm glad this was recorded because I don't think anyone would believe me if I told them. Alright, so we're facing Breakfast. I don't think we're supposed to sideboard at all. Like, I guess you could bring in Abrupt Decay if you want to break up their combo. But is that really better than a Mox Opal? Probably not. Or you could take out the Sail into the West. I feel like that card might be a little bit of wishful thinking in this matchup. Yeah, I don't hate that. Let's try this. Game number 2, we're on the draw. I'm going to choose to keep this. I understand that it looks a little sketchy here. My game plan is, or my thought process is, we're a Lion's Eye Diamond away from greatness. Or if you draw into Echo of Eons, you have a protected Echo. Will that happen? I don't know. But I would like to, potentially try. So Savannah into Nomads is a little scary here. I think this says that they might have a turn 2 win. Get rid of the Runehorn. That's a good card to put to the graveyard. We'll play out the Lotus Petal. And if I need to now, if they play a Cephalid Illusionist, I can upkeep silence them, or silence them in response. There's the Island. Ponder. So no Cephalid Illusionist. Big fan. So the Runehorn Hellkite is now in the correct zone. I just don't have anywhere near 6 mana. They swing. Ouch. And they shuffle their library. Another Nomads in Core. Okay. Chrome Mox. We'll play the Commercial District. I think I want the Lotus Petal. And we'll pass. So the question is, am I supposed to upkeep silence them here? So I have Lotus Petal on top, which would be mana number 4. Opal would be 5. Chrome Mox is 6. So that does give me Runehorn Hellkite. So I think, yeah, I will upkeep silence them. Upkeep silence. No bird for you. They play a Urza Saga, and now they swing. So we'll draw the Lotus Petal, play it, play the Mox Opal, and Chrome Mox. So this gives me 6 mana for the Runehorn Hellkite. I guess we imprint the gamble. So another thing is I could just pass and upkeep silence them again, trying to find more mana for this Runehorn Hellkite. My fear is if they don't have Cephalid Illusionist and then they play the Nadu, and then, they just draw a bunch of cards. On the end step, I Runehorn Hellkite. And then they're like, okay, well, I draw 7 off your dragon, and now I get 6 more triggers off of my creatures. And then they gain a bunch of lands in play. So I don't think I'm allowed to just sit on the Runehorn Hellkite here. I will silence them again in their upkeep. I want to Runehorn Hellkite. I just don't think that I'm allowed to, pretend that they can't ever win the game. Especially when they know about the Runehorn Hellkite in the graveyard. They're so incentivized to play a Nadu and then not draw their entire deck to win with the Thassa's Oracle. They put a Ghost Vacuum to the graveyard. Okay. And now they swing. Echo of Eons. That's a great card to draw because I can now discard it with the Runehorn Hellkite. Alright, so I'm going to pass the turn. No upkeep silence. Saga goes to the 3rd chapter. They surveilled away the Ghost Vacuum, so I don't know if they'd have another here. And they grab a Shuko. And they do have the Nadu. That was my fear. Oh. Yeah. So I don't want to Runehorn Hellkite now. I'd like to do it on the end step, but they're going to gain a bunch of equity here. Just drawing a bunch of cards and putting lands in play. None of this is good for me. Move my sideboard down. And you might have been saying, well, if you thought they had Nadu, why not Runehorn Hellkite on your main phase? Well, they might just kill me with Cephalid Illusionist then. So it's a little bit of a prisoner's dilemma. Orm's Chant, sure. Are they going to go for the win when I have that Runehorn Hellkite in the graveyard? Oh, friend. Oh, friend. Are we going to get away with murder twice this league? I mean, it's face up on the board. Okay, it looks like they're going to go through with it. 31 cards, Needle. So Needle can name my Runehorn Hellkite here. Oh, that's a bummer. The Oracle's in the graveyard. Another Cavern of Souls. Force of Will. Maybe they'll forget about the Runehorn Hellkite. Who knows? Veil of Summer and Consigned to Memory. They're on a very hateful list here. 15 cards left in deck. Are they really going to forget about the dragon? Or do they think that it's a spell? Alright, there's 3 cards left. I mean, I think I just forced the Runehorn Hellkite here. And by force, I mean use the activated ability that they could have Pithing Needled. Alright, discard your hand and draw 7. Wow, so my last TES video, we also beat Cephalid Breakfast this exact way. Kind of wild that it's happened twice now. It's not a good matchup for me either. Like, I am like lifetime sub 30% in this matchup. And the last 2 videos, playing the Silence list, we've beaten Cephalid Breakfast. Read that activated ability. Read it. You can't consign to memory it. Nope. Can't do it. And we win the match. We're now 2-0. Let's go get match number 3. Looking to make playing your favorite combo deck much easier? Look no further than the Epic Storm Mini Combo Pack, which is available at theepicstorm.com/shop for $15.99. This token combo pack comes with 84 double-sided tokens featuring classic Storm and Mana tokens with new inclusions such as our modern Ruby Storm package, but that's not all. Our token pack covers a variety of formats from Pauper to CDH with new tokens. Stop on by theepicstorm.com/shop and make an easy decision to elevate your combo game. For round number 3, we are on the play. I noticed that when looking over the first 2 matches that my green screen was a little, there was a lot of green around me, so I tried to edit it going into this match. Hopefully it's a little better now. Alright, so we've opened up triple protection plus Echo of Eons, no Lion's Eye Diamond. And our opponent has results with Black Reanimator and Maverick, but they're from years ago. I don't know what they're playing today. I think we could probably do better. We'll mulligan. This hand is not better. I think we'll go to 5. And I'm not saying that our opponent isn't playing blue. They might be playing blue. But I just don't think that you're supposed to keep that opening 7 without knowing. Like, if you know that they're a blue deck, I'd probably keep it. This hand, not worth keeping. One thing that we found in testing these no brainstorm lists is that we do like 8 protection spells just so that way you find them. I do think that so far this league, we've been a little bit glutted, but it's a small sample size. It's 2.5 matches. So I wouldn't let that, outweigh, the larger sample of like, okay, we feel like we need more than 6, even though, we've had a couple games so far where we've seen 2 or 3. It's just, you have to find them against the blue decks of the format because they have Force of Will, Force of Negation, Consigned to Memory, Daze, all these things, Thoughtseize, and it makes it really tough in order to win. Our opponent also on a mulligan to 5. So that tells me they're probably on like Prison or Oopsal spells. I'm going to go to 4. Like, this hand doesn't actually do anything. Ay. Am I going to 3? That's the question here. A 3 could be land, gamble, Lion's Eye Diamond, or land, Lion's Eye Diamond, Echo. This hand doesn't actually do anything. So I will go to 3. I'll take my chance on 2. Best hand we've seen. Alright, so with the Veil of Summer, gamble, Chromox, silence. We'll play Bloodstained Mire and Lion's Eye Diamond. Alright, Lion's Eye Diamond finally resolves. We'll pass the turn. I guess we get to find out what they're playing. Or at least a hint of what they're playing here. My hopes for winning this game are not particularly high, but I would like to gain as much information as possible so that way I know what I'm doing in the post-board games. Ancient Tomb. So maybe the Mystic Forge combo deck. So if we search out the Commercial District, we could Surveil into Echo or Gamble. Those would both be great finds, assuming that there isn't a first-turn Karn the Great Creator. Chalice of the Void. So not the Forge deck. This is likely Eldrazi. Sure. Or Moonstompy. We'll fetch. We just want that Surveil to potentially hit Echo of Eons. Grab the Commercial District. It is a mountain for Pulverize. Sail into the west, no thank you. Another diamond. Okay, that's not terrible. If we actually hit Echo of Eons now, there's a pretty good chance we win. They play Eldrazi Temple, so it is in fact Eldrazi. Glaring Fleshraker. Okay. They have one colorless mana floating. And they pass the turn. Beseech the Mirror, I can't cast you. You're not even close to castable. Pass the turn. They swing, I go to 17. Another Ancient Tomb. Not Seer. So they can exile the Beseech the Mirror, and then they get an Eldrazi spawn. I'll take 1 damage. Ouch. I'm at 15. They have 2 cards in their hand. I'm running out of time here. I really, really need to draw the Echo of Eons. And another Glaring Fleshraker. So I'm at 13. They have 1 card in hand. Ah, you're killing me, Smalls. Pass. They have 2 cards. They play an Eye of Ugin. They can swing. This will put me to 5. Alright, let's see it. Gemstone Mine is not good enough. Alright, so we lose game number 1 to Eldrazi. Which is a bummer, because it means that game 3, assuming that I win game 2, will be on the draw. This is not a matchup where I would be concerned about the One Ring. But if you are concerned with the One Ring, you would like to leave in some number of silence, so that way you can still beat the One Ring with the silence trick in the post-board games. I'm at 58 right now. The Empty the Warrens comes in, and then you could choose between the Thoughtseize or the Void Snare. I prefer the Void Snare. So 8 protection spells out, 8 other cards in. So you have 5 bounce spells, including the Void Snare. You have Beseiju, you have the 1 Abrupt Decay, and then the Empty the Warrens. So that is the board plan for decks like this, where you don't need the Veil of Summer or Silence. If you do feel like you need the Silence, you could leave a couple things in the sideboard. Maybe the Void Snare, you know, up to you. Game number 2, we're on the play. This is a turn 1 Echo of Eons. You can also Chain of Vapor, a Leyline of the Void. We like that. I guess a card that I should have thought about leaving in silence for would be Mindbreak Trap. I do feel like sometimes these Eldrazi decks play a couple. So I could have left in like silence for a Mindbreak Trap. Now they're mulliganing down to 4. They reveal a Devourer of Destiny. Play the Bloodstained Mire. Let's play Lion's Eye Diamond. Lotus Petal. They appear to be F6, so I think I'm going to take the... not F6. I still think I would like to gamble here. Yeah, they're not F6. Alright, so they might have the trap. I'll grab my Echo. Echo goes to the graveyard. So the fear now would be like Fairy Macabre. I could bounce a Chalice or a Null Rod, but I'd lose if they have like Fairy Macabre. The fact that they F6 and then on F6 makes me think that they might have Mindbreak Trap. I'm going to pass. If I get Fairy Macabre, I'm going to feel foolish, but that's the read I have. Devourer of Destiny. They kept 1 of the cards. They exiled Lotus Petal, it that heralds the end, and Glaring Fleshraker. They play Lotus Petal. 3 cards remain. Chalice of the Void on 0. Sure. Another gamble. I think I would like to pass and then just on their end step bounce the Chalice. And then untap and try to win. And if they have a Eldrazi, what is it called? Kozilek's Command, I can then just gamble for another Echo of Eons here. We'll use the Bloodstained Mire, grab the Underground Sea, and let's Chain of Vapor the Chalice of the Void. There's a pause here in my upkeep. Let's see if they actually have the Kozilek's Command. They tried to cast something and then didn't, so I don't know what that means. I'm going to just flashback the Echo here. Storm is 1. Ooh, that was not good. That was really not good. Ugh. Alright, we're passing. I was hoping for, you know, something functional that wasn't in the cards, but, you know, oh well. There's still a chance we win this. Wastecape Battle Mage. Sure. Goodbye to my Lotus Petal. You got it. They play a Wasteland. Goodbye, Gemstone Mine. Another gamble. So gamble wasn't terrible here. We'll get rid of the Chain of Vapor. So gamble could be another Echo of Eons, but I need to empty my hand a little bit for that to work. They play an Ancient Tomb. Chalice of the Void on 0. They swing. Ouch. Not a lot of plays from them here. We find an Into the Flood Maw. We'll play out the Bayou. Pass the turn. Not Seer. I'm going to just let this resolve because I can destroy the Chalice or answer the Chalice multiple ways, and I don't want to help them make their decision. I actually really want to keep the gamble here. But we'll see what they end up deciding to do. And they take the bounce spell, which I think I'm happy with. And now they swing. I'll go to 14. End step. Tap the Bayou for a, I don't know, a green. We'll tap the Underground Sea for a black. We'll Abrupt Decay the Chalice of the Void. And then I think I'll keep the Besiju Who Endures as my land drop. Dark Ritual. That was decent. So now we can play the Besiju Who Endures. Burrow Mox. We're going to imprint the Tendrils, which means we want to win using the sideboard Tendrils. And we are we have to run headfirst into Mindbreak Trap here. So if they actually have the Mindbreak Trap, you know, oh well. Wasn't a whole lot we could do. And now we'll gamble, grab the Echo, and we'll attempt to spin. 4 available mana, Storm is 5. Okay. It's interesting. I think we'll play the Lotus Petal to make sure that we can enable Metalcraft, and then we'll play Gamble or Beseech the Mirror, and the game plan would be to Song of Creation, I think. I mean, I could just grab the Song of Creation itself, I suppose. If I do that, I'd have to get rid of the Lotus Petals, so I think that's actually worse than Beseech the Mirror. We'll grab Beseech the Mirror. Ah, we discarded the Opal. I wanted that one. And we will Beseech the Mirror, sacrifice the Mox Opal. Storm is 8. So I could just empty the Warrens for 18. Let's look at my fetchables. It's just Shadowy Backstreet. So I could fetch for Shadowy Backstreet and then Surveil and then Gamble, which gives me a way to win this turn. My fear is if I empty pass, I don't have lethal. I mean, I guess I could Beseech, empty, and that would give me 24 goblins, which would be lethal. But if they have like a Glaring Fleshraker draw, they could, 1, kill me, or make enough blockers that they can win the game over multiple turns. So I think I do want to do Song of Creation. I guess another thought is, do I want to waste my land drop on the Bloodstained Mire when I have Gemstone Mines in the deck? Probably not. So let's just play the gamble here. Trigger Song. Okay, so that didn't go super well. If I get Diamond, I can Echo and draw a new hand. Let's go for Lines of Diamond. The Red Entomb. No! Alright, so we're probably dead now. Alright, so I play my land. There's a Surveil land that we can fetch, and now I have to pass. We're dead to a number of cards here. Like, Glaring Fleshraker plus almost anything kills me. So they can attack for 6, I would go to 8. And I have to imagine they can just like deal that much damage. It that heralds the end, so now that's 8 damage. Now I would go to 6. Eldrazi Linebreaker, that's not quite lethal, right? They play a land. Wait, is the Linebreaker lethal? Oh no, the Linebreaker is lethal. Because it's going to give another Eldrazi haste plus the number of Eldrazi they have in play. So that does kill me here. It also has Trample, so it would have made Empty the Warrens real awkward. Bummer. So our song fizzled. I mean, technically it's the gamble that fizzled, but we lose match number 3. Unfortunate, but losses do happen. I do think that song was the move over Empty, despite it not working. I think Empty the Warrens wouldn't have been sufficient enough. That's my 2 cents. And let's go try to get match number 4. The Gold Sabertooth times the Epic Storm Collection has arrived with 3 full-size tokens showcasing the beloved Dark Ritual, CDH Rogsai, and Legacy of the Epic Storm for just $5. On the backs of these tokens, there's a place for my signature or a custom message. In addition to these sweet tokens, a friendly reminder that all orders that ship from theepicstorm.com also come with a signed Storm token from yours truly. Welcome to round number 4. We're on the play. Our opponent has a long history of various Legacy decks, but recently they've been on Lone Pox. Here we've opened up a hand where, you know, you're not punished for passing the turn because you do have Veil of Summer. We could first turn Echo of Eons, but if they're playing a blue deck, I'd like the ability to protect my win. So I think here I'm going to just play, you know, Bayou plus some artifacts and pass the turn. So we'll play the Bayou, we'll play out Lotus Petal, and I think I'll actually hold the Lines of Diamond. Because if they're not Lone Pox, and let's say they're on Jeskai control, Prismatic Ending, exiling the Lines of Diamond would be problematic. So instead, I'll just play I'll hold up the Veil of Summer, and you know, hope that's good enough. They use the Marsh Flats here for a scrub land. Thoughtseize. I would like the Veil of Summer, please. Boom. Chrome Mox, not a great draw. Guy's Will. Well, we'll shove that Guy's Will underneath a Chrome Mox here. Play out the other Chrome Mox just for Metalcraft purposes. No. Play the Diamond. And we'll use the Gemstone Mine to cast Gamble. Storm is 4. Echo of Eons will be Storm 5. Let's slide this over. I don't like that it's so close to the stack. I feel like I'm going to misclick. Alright, so Echo of Eons. We'll float blue. And then I'll tap the Chrome Mox that's green. So that way we have a spare blue mana floating. Post Echo of Eons. Storm 5. Okay, so this allows me to play Sail into the West. Play the Diamond. Play Opal. So it's Sail into the West, floating 3 of 1 color. Or I could Echo again. And if I Echo, I have more colors open. So I feel like Echo is actually the better choice here. We'll gamble. Grab another Echo. And let's spin, baby. Spin, spin, spin. Actually, hold on. I have a blue floating. Let's float red this time. Because then that gives me both combo colors. And if I need a blue, I have the Lotus Petal. That'll do, Pig. That'll do. Dark Ritual. I suppose I can silence them here. I should have silenced before the Dark Ritual, but I don't think it matters. Blind's Eye Diamond. And Tendrils of Agony. Hiya. Sweet. That is how we do. So if I had to guess, and I don't know for certain, but Scrubland into Thoughtseize, this might be like an energy deck. You know, the Ocelot Pride style strategies. Abrupt Decay, or it could just be white in their Lone Pox deck, who knows. I think in this post-board game, I'm going to do a hybrid strategy. I'm going to leave in 2 copies of Veil of Summer. I won't board in the Void Snare, and I'm actually going to board out the Sail into the West, so that way I can keep an extra Veil of Summer against the black deck. We'll try it. I don't know if, like, this hand crumbles against a single Thoughtseize. They're kind of hoping that they just don't have one. Deafening Silence, not a fan. Okay. Here, I think the actual game plan is that we're going to Echo and pass. So playing out the Boseiju is a guaranteed mana. Because next turn, I think I'm just casting the Echo for a new hand. They play a basic Swamp. Overlord of the Baelmerk. Okay. Cabal Therapy and Felia. So this is like a 60-card Death and Taxes, maybe? And they got back Felia. Chrome Mox. I mean, I don't hate the Chrome Mox. Maybe I'll imprint the Empty here. So I was planning on Echoing, but I think I like developing more mana first. They play Witch Enchanter as a land. And another Deafening Silence. Brutal. So they have the Cabal Therapy in the graveyard. So I think they actually have this game on lockdown. Because if I Burning Wish for Reverent Silence, they can just Cabal Therapy it out of my hand. So I think they've got this one. They play the Felia. I also currently can't cast the Reverent Silence, but that's not the point. They have a Wasteland. Okay, Boseiju down. They can blink my Chrome Mox here if that's what they want to do, or the Overlord, and they choose the Overlord. Orcish Bowmasters. Yep. And now they use the Cabal Therapy. So this is a window for me. If I can draw like a Taiga, I guess a Taiga's not in my deck. Bayou, or a fetch land, I could Burning Wish for Reverent Silence and potentially still win this game. And they milled over a Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. So I think this game's actually just over. Okay, so there's still a potential to win. It's just incredibly low. So next turn they attack for 9, and I can't even Echo them. And they're going to have a Thalia. Alright, I'm not going to show them the Reverent Silence. I can't win this. Let's just go to the next one. Alright, so 60-card D&T with Cabal Therapy, Thoughtseize, and Deafening Silence. I think I'm going to resubmit here. The alternative is, like, I could bring in 2 Silence over the Veils and look to just, like, upkeep Silence, Time Walk them. But I don't know if that's actually good either. I'm going to just resubmit. Alright, game 3, we're on the play. This is like the same hand as last game. Except the Runehorn Hellkite instead of an Echo. I don't think we're allowed to keep this. We will mulligan. This doesn't do anything. We'll go to 5. This is a turn 1 empty the Warrens? Or 10. Gonna have to be good enough. We'll put Chain of Vapor and Runehorn Hellkite on the bottom. We beat Graveyard Hate here, so I like that. If they have like a turn 1 Leyline or Fairy Macabre or anything like that. Alright, Bloodstained Mire will fetch. They're also on 5 cards. We'll grab Underground Sea in case you draw one of our bounce spells. Lotus Petal. Lotus Petal. Cast the Dark Ritual. And Beseech the Mirror with Bargain, sacrificing the Lotus Petal. Storm is 4. Empty the Warrens will be Storm 5. Cast it. Okay. And you beat 10-1-1 goblins. I hope not. And our opponent has conceded. Nice. Alright, so we're now 3-1. Let's finish this with a strong 4-1 finish by winning match number 5. The Best Legacy Podcast? That would be Eternal Glory featuring myself, Bryant Cook, alongside Brian Koval and Phil Gallagher. We're available on all major podcast platforms and YouTube. The 5th and final round, we're on the draw versus the current trophy leader, and they play a little bit of everything. Doomsday, Mono Green Cloudpost, Demir Tempo, Reanimator, so I have no idea what they're playing. I've opened up a very strong hand, so we'll keep this. Prismatic Vista, so maybe Jeskai control? Plateau. Play the Gemstone Mine, and I'm just going to throw out Veil of Summer here. They fetch with the Prismatic Vista, Basic Island, Spell Pierce. Was not hoping for that. That's unfortunate. I think I'm going to jam. I think my hand doesn't cantrip and it doesn't do anything particularly well. So by passing, I'm just allowing them to ponder and dig for Force of Will, and I don't want that. So Spell Pierce was not great for me here, but I'm going to take my chances. Honestly, not terrible. We do have to pass the turn, but it could have been worse. So I will pass here. The Gaia's Will is unfortunate. I don't really want that card. Mountain. Thundertrap Trainer. It is, in fact, Jeskai control. They find Brainstorm. 7 cards in their hand. We draw Dark Ritual. I think I'm going to attempt a jam here again. So we will silence. See what happens. The Force of Negation exiling Tamiyo. Dark Ritual. Okay, we'll play out Lotus Petal. Lotus Petal. I have to suspend the Gaia's Will in order to be able to do everything I want here. So I will suspend that Gaia's Will. And now I can gamble for Echo. I am 1 mana short of getting Runehorn Hellkite. So we'll grab the Echo. Hope that they don't have a Force of Will on top of the Force of Negation. Storm 8, Echo of Eons, floating a black. It resolves. So I could go Dark Ritual. I mean, this relays for a bunch, or I could pass. My thing with going for relay here is 1, Force of Will and Force of Negation. They're over 50% to have 1, but it also takes up my entire hand. So I think rather than going all in on a Galvanic Relay, we're supposed to pass here. Yeah, we'll pass. If some of these lands were spells, I think I would go for it, but the fact that if we get forced, our hand just does nothing for the rest of the game is not great. And you might be watching this game going like, wow, Echo has failed twice. I'd like to point out that we have 5 permanent mana sources on the table. And I should, maybe permanent isn't the right word. Like, we have a Gemstone Mine with 1 counter left and a Lotus Petal, but we have 5 mana sources on the board. Like, even though we did not win the game, we're gaining equity, and that's how I choose to look at Echo a lot of the time. Like, we're still in this game. It didn't convert, but it doesn't need to. Like, we're still able to play this game and potentially win. They grab a Scalding Tarn, and now they swing. Ouch. Gaia's Will. 3 counters remain. Song of Creation. We'll play Commercial District. Keep the Dark Ritual, I think. And then we'll Burning Wish. And now I can go grab Galvanic Relay. Pass the turn. They're fetching with Scalding Tarn. 3 mana here. Flame of Anor. 4th Eralingas. Okay. Good with me. They swing. I'll go to 16. They become the Monarch. Gaia's Will loses a suspend counter. They still have 7 cards in their hand. We'll play Bayou. Dark Ritual. Red, green, blue. They're going to have to counterspell Song of Creation. They don't really have much of a choice here. And they Force of Negation the Song of Creation. Yep. Firm is now 3. So I think I would like to convert this Dark Ritual into another card. So I could go Chromox Relay for 5. Like, that's a fine play. But I can't but wonder if maybe I'm wrong. Because then next turn I could gamble and then threaten Runehorn Hellkite if I keep the Dark Rit. Okay, I've talked myself into keeping it. We'll play Chromox. No imprint. And now we will Galvanic Relay. 5 cards coming off the top. Plateau, Beseech the Mirror, Chrome Mox, Mox Opal, and Silence. Pretty good Galvanic Relay. So they'll draw for turn, back up to 6 cards. They will draw a card on their end step due to being the Monarch, so they'll be at 7 by the end of the turn, assuming they don't play a land. Our opponent did not shuffle on the Ponder. They play a Flooded Strand. They can now attack for 3. I'll fall to 13 life. Ouch. They fetch with the Flooded Strand, so they did not want 2 cards off of the Ponder. They only wanted the 1. And now they'll draw a card on the end step. 6 cards in hand, and we get to begin our Galvanic Relay turn. Guys, Will loses a Suspend counter. We draw a Lotus Petal. We'll play the Plateau, and let's just start with a Silence. We have to be mindful that the Guy's Will is in exile, and so is the Song of Creation. So here, this Beseech the Mirror is really a Sail into the West. The Silence just resolves. We'll play the Lotus Petal. I wonder if we can Natural Storm. That's another thought here, too. We'll play the Dark Ritual. I guess we'll play the Chrome Mox and imprint the Gamble. So Opal would be 5. Beseech would be 6. There's 1 Beseech imprinted, so we could Beseech 1 more time. I think I'm supposed to just Sail into the West. Sacrifice the Mox Opal. Actually, hold on. Beseech the Mirror would be 6. Burning Wish would be 7. Mox Opal would be 8. Tendrils would be 9. Hold on. I think we have Deterministic. Alright, so I have 7 mana in play. I could Beseech the Mirror 1 more time. That would be Storm 6. It would grab Burning Wish, which would be 7. Burning Wish resolves, getting Tendrils. Mox Opal would be 8. Tendrils of Agony would be 9. I've played a Silence, so they can't Swords to Plowshare. Yeah, that's lethal. Alright, so we'll cast Beseech the Mirror, sacrifice the Chrome Mox, grab Burning Wish. We'll play it. I suppose if I needed to, I could grab the sideboard, Beseech the Mirror here too. Why not? We'll grab the sideboard, Beseech the Mirror. Play the Mox Opal. Black, red, black. Lose a Gemstone Mine. Beseech the Mirror with Bargain. Sacrifice the Mox Opal. And Tendrils of Agony. Target you. Sweet. Tendrils of Agony. We've won game number 1 versus Jeskai control. We likely want the Boseiju Who Endures and the Abrupt Decay. Board out Sail into the West and a Mox Opal. Let's try it. If I find that they have so much permanent hate in game 2, game 3 we could also look into bringing in a couple copies of bounce spells, but I would like to just try this plan first. If I wanted to bring in the bounce spells, I would probably cut the 4th Gamble and maybe 1 more piece of artifact mana. Game 2, we're on the draw. I don't believe in this hand. We will send it back. This hand's pretty good. I think you're supposed to bottom the Beseech the Mirror. Just need a little bit more mana, which I think is a fair ask. For 1 island and 2 Ponder. Abrupt Decay. A fine enough draw. Beseech the Mirror can go to the graveyard. We'll pass the turn. So the Abrupt Decay gives us some protection versus Lavinia or Stony Silence or anything like that. But I really need to draw mana in our current spot. Regardless if we have the Abrupt Decay or not. Thundertrap Trainer. Okay. They find Force of Will. Not ideal. We hit the Bayou. We know that they have the Force of Will. I'll play Veil of Summer. The question is, do they think that it's a bluff? I hope they do. They Force of Will, exiling Flame of Anor. 3 cards remain. So I could wait and hope to draw a white mana, or I could just jam now. I think I'm going to jam. We'll imprint the Silence so that way we have white mana after. Burning Wish. I think just like untap, well, allowing them to untap and dig, like their deck is so much better at finding cards in comparison that I don't want to give them more opportunities to find Consign to Memory plus Pyroblast or something else. And you don't want to play out Diamond early, because if you play out Diamond early, you could get hit by Prismatic Ending. So I'm going to risk the Echo of Eons here. Long pause. They do have another Force. Okay, sure. I mean, we opened up a strong hand, but theirs was better. Another Thundertrap Trainer. They find Spell Pierce. So, would I have drawn away mana this turn? No. Echo is okay if I can draw another Lines at Diamond. They swing. We know that they have Spell Pierce in their hand. Okay. We're in a Lion's Eye Diamond waiting room now. Let's go. Their hand clearly lacking white mana at the moment. They play a Brainstorm. Basic Island, so no fetch land, no white mana. They swing, 3 cards left. Gamble. So I could risk it here and just try to go get Diamond to discard the Echo. I think I'll pass. So if I wait 1 turn, we can make it a 66% chance of success. Thundertrap Trainer. They find a 3rd Force of Will. Ay. Okay. I go to 13. I'm going to silence and make them use something here. I know that they have Force of Will and Spell Pierce. If they Spell Pierce, I will pay for it and make them think about countering the silence still. They Force of Will, exiling Force of Will. Good deal. Okay, pass. They're all out of Force of Wills. They could have Force of Negation. We know that they have Spell Pierce. They swing. I go to 10. We find Plateau. Let's gamble. We need no Consign to Memory and no Pyroblast here. So we're actually asking for a lot, but this is our chance to win. So we discard the Plateau. We'll play Lion's Eye Diamond. We can pay for a Spell Pierce, but that's about it. We'll play the Chrome Mox. I would have preferred keeping the Plateau over the Chrome Mox, but oh well. We'll make 3 blue and attempt to Echo. Storm is 4. Hard cast Force of Negation. You drew 5 forces. That's so many. That's so many forces. Come on. Alright, we'll go to the next one. Alright, submit. The final game of this Legacy League. Okay, so a potential turn 1 protected Echo. I think we keep those. Play the Gemstone Mine. And silence. It resolves. So we have a 75% chance of success here. Play the gamble. Select Lion's Eye Diamond. Hey, look at us. And now we'll spin. So we started this game with 5 Storm and a land. That's how I choose to look at it. Pass the turn. They play a Tundra and pass. Let's play Plateau, Lotus Petal, because I don't want the Lotus Petal or my gamble to get Spell Pierce. I'm going to gamble for a diamond here, and my game plan is Runehorn Hellkite. They're tapping for a blue. They have a Hydroblast. Okay. I think I will suspend the Guy's Will then. Pass. If they kill the Lotus Petal, I don't love that because we're really, really tight on mana. They play Tamiyo Inquisitive Student, Basic Island, and Brainstorm. So the Tamiyo will flip immediately here. Guys will suspend counter, really hoping to draw a Lion's Eye Diamond. We did not. I mean, I could jam a Song of Creation and just pray they don't have a force, but we've seen so many forces out of them. Burning Wish. That resolved. I think I'll grab a Thoughtseize. Pass the turn. Ideally, we would draw some sort of mana next turn that allows me to Thoughtseize into Song of Creation and then trigger the Song of Creation with Mox Opal. They play Prismatic Vista for a basic mountain. 3 mana. The Fairy Time Raveler. Okay. So if they bounce the Lotus Petal, I could sacrifice it so that they don't draw a card. And they're going to wisely not select any targets here. Because I could sacrifice the Petal so they don't draw. Now they plus the Tamiyo. They're at 5 cards. Guy's Will. So the Guy's Will is shut off by the Tamiyo, or by the Teferi. We did not hit. Gamble's good though because it does get Lion's Eye Diamond. So we'll Thoughtseize here. And they did have a Force of Will, so I'm glad I waited. They also have Consign to Memory. We'll take the Force of Will and attempt our gamble for Diamond here. Lion's Eye Diamond. No! Why are you like this deck? Oh, brutal. We probably just lost. They plus the Teferi. And they're going to return the Force of Will. We know that they have Consign to Memory, Force of Will in hand. And this Guy's Will is going to remain in exile due to the Teferi Time Raveler. We have to pass. They plus the Tamiyo again. They tick up the Teferi Time Raveler and a Ponder. This game is a little awkward with the Gemstone Mines because I lose those lands if I try to cast Song of Creation or the Beseech the Mirror. And now Guy's will stay permanently exiled. So if they decide to not consign the diamond, there's a chance. Let's play it. And they will use the Consign to Memory. Unfortunate. We have 2 copies of Lion's Eye Diamond left in our deck that we need to draw. And we need to do it next turn because they're going to ultimate the Tameo and then draw half their library. They fetch with Prismatic Vista. And now they're going to kill my Lotus Petal. Sure. We need Lion's Eye Diamond. Nope. Pass the turn. So now they draw half their library, and I think that this game is just over. Don't need silence. Yeah, I'll pick it up. Alright, so this league ended up being a 3-2, which is a little disappointing. Because I've been loving this deck list. I really have. And I don't know if I'd make any changes. Unfortunately, we did not get to showcase the Silence plus Empty the Warrens trick. We never faced One Ring decks or Veil of Summer decks. So, you know, sometimes that's how leagues go. But that technology is something that you should be aware of, that you want to use if you do play the Epic Storm. You want to Song of Creation, set up a really good hand, sacrifice the Song of Creation, you know, empty the Warrens, pass, and then upkeep silence them. That's the idea here. Hopefully you learned something in this video. Hopefully you enjoyed something. Thank you to Matthew Story for submitting the donation deck. I really do appreciate the support. And thank you for everyone for watching. Let me know what you think of the changes and anything in the league that, you know, you have thoughts on. I hope you have a wonderful day, and as always, keep storming. Hey you, yeah you, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're interested, you can visit theepicstorm.com/donation decks to see your combo deck here on this very YouTube channel. You can even join me in a video in the Epic tier. It's totally worth it, I promise. And see ya. Thanks for watching.